Do you believe that Kathy Engelbert should be replaced as the commissioner of the WNBA?
I do. I do. I've known Kathy for a while. I like her. She's a woman in a man's world. She ran Deloitte. We're a few years apart in age. I totally respect that as someone who had a lot of that, being the only woman in the press box or whatever. University of Miami, as you know, and other places, maybe one or two of us, and that was the only woman in the locker room, etc. So I respect her background and her leadership and this great resume that she has.
There it is. A USA Today reporter just said on the record that the commissioner of the WNBA should be fired. Not speculation, not anonymous sources. Christine Brennan, who's covered professional sports for 4 decades, just put her name on that statement. And the reason she gave? Kathy Engelbert has been systematically erasing Caitlin Clark from the league's own success story, while that same player is responsible for every dollar of new revenue coming through the door.
Happened that year, record-breaking attendance, TV viewership, moving to bigger arenas, all because of one person, Caitlin
Clark, baby.
That I think was close to 20 minutes, 18, 19 minutes. Kathy Engelbert never said the words Caitlin Clark, never uttered her name. So something's going on and leadership is needed. And when you have a void like this, the void is filled with anger and aggression.
That's not hyperbole. John Wortham on 60 Minutes asked Engelbert directly about Caitlin Clark. One name, one question. And the commissioner's answer started with, well, Caitlin and Angel. Wortham had to stop her mid-sentence and redirect. No, I didn't ask about Angel. I asked about Caitlin. That's not a slip. That's a pattern. And Brennan just called out the most damning example.
And you get things like that picture that's going to last forever of Alyssa Thomas's fist on the throat of Caitlin Clark, the woman who's responsible for the charter flights and more money, at least in some ways, with the collective bargaining agreement that Alyssa Thomas is getting. So that fist to the throat and also kneeing her groin beforehand. And then the very weak penalty, that's the other thing. Slap on the wrist. $1,000 fine for a woman, Alyssa Thomas, making $1.2 million this year, obviously because of the increase in interest and the salaries, in part because of Caitlin, large part because of Caitlin Clark, and also just a 1-game suspension when it should have been, I think, at least 10 games.
18 to 19 minutes. That's how long Kathy Engelbert spoke during the 2024 WNBA Finals about record attendance, record viewership, teams moving to bigger arenas, charter flights, new TV deals. 18 minutes celebrating a historic year for the league. And in that entire speech, she never said the name Caitlin Clark, not once. The person responsible for all of it was treated like she didn't exist. That's not an oversight, that's a choice. And when leadership makes that choice, Brennan said something else that matters. The void gets filled with anger and aggression.
At least 10 games. Shout out to Christine Brennan on an exceptional response to that question. Now, we cannot forget the infamous 60-minute interview where Kathy Engelbert deliberately said drama is what pretty much fill up the seats in these stadiums for the WNBA. She damn near said we need more drama. We cannot forget that 60-minute interview, bro. Go check it out.
That's the part people miss. When a commissioner refuses to protect the league's biggest star, when she won't even acknowledge her by name, it sends a message to everyone else on the court. And that message got delivered in the form of Dejanai Carrington's fist to Caitlin Clark's throat on June 2nd, 2025. The image is going to last forever, Brennan said. A player who's making over $1 million this year, in large part because of the new CBA that Clark's popularity helped fund, choking the woman responsible for it on national television.
It's been on Caitlin Clark's side the entire time. Besides content creators in the big media is USA Today reporter Christine Brennan. Christine Brennan wrote an exceptional, great book when Caitlin Clark first arrived in the WNBA, talked about the rise and how basically we got...
Christine Brennan has been the exception in mainstream media. While most of the big outlets either ignored what was happening or actively participated in downplaying it, Brennan wrote an entire book documenting Caitlin Clark's arrival in the WNBA and the cultural collision that followed. She's been on the record since day one, and now she's saying what a lot of people have been thinking, but didn't have the platform or the credibility to say, this commissioner is incapable of running the league.
I reported on it years ago on the channel. Now, something else that she said that stuck out. Without Caitlin Clark, Y'all don't get charter flights. Y'all don't get these big old media deals, right? Ain't it crazy? Y'all get the new
One game, $1,000 fine. That was the penalty for Carrington after the throat punch and the knee to Clark's groin earlier in the same game. Brennan said it should have been at least 10 games, and she's right. But here's what makes it worse. Carrington's salary this year is $1.2 million. $1,000 fine to someone making that much is the equivalent of fining an average American about $40. It's not a punishment, it's permission.
meteorite deal, right? When Caitlin Clark get here, this is what we need to discuss. The disrespect with Caitlin Clark is at an all-time high. And I want to touch on this. We have to touch on this. Last year, when it was in CBA negotiation, there was many reports that I was receiving that part of the agreement for signing the new CBA was for them to get a new commissioner. That's what I was hearing verbatim, simply because of the Nafisa Collier exit interview. Now, fast forward, it took months upon months for them to get the CBA done.
And this is where the money angle gets really ugly. The WNBA just signed new media deals worth $2.2 billion over 11 years. Players got charter flights for the first time in league history. The new CBA increased average salaries by over 30%. All of that happened in the span of 1 year. And it all happened because Caitlin Clark brought an audience the league had never seen before. But instead of protecting that investment, the league's leadership allowed her to be targeted on the court while pretending she didn't exist off it. That's not just bad management, it's self-sabotage.
About now, ever since Caitlin Clark arrived to this league, there has been troubles and setbacks that really, to me, a lot of it has not been on her. There's been a lot of assaults taking place on the basketball court. It's been a whole lot of sabotaging, not only by her head coach, but definitely by the league itself. Hell, they dropped the WNBA 30-year poster and left the Michael Jordan of the league off.
Let's go back to the beginning for a second, because this didn't start when Clark got drafted. The targeting started the moment she arrived, and it came from multiple directions. Players were taking cheap shots on the court. Coaches weren't calling it out. The league wasn't protecting her. And then there was the poster. The WNBA released a 30th anniversary poster in 2026, celebrating the league's history, and Caitlin Clark, the player who just saved the entire operation, wasn't on it. Diana Taurasi was there. Sue Bird was there. Maya Moore posted a photo of herself with all her championship rings in what looked like a direct response. But the one player who actually moved the needle for casual fans left off completely.
The poster. Many people can say what they want. Maya Moore posted up a picture of her with all her rings on. No disrespect to her. She kind of emulated the Jordan photo, but it didn't hit the same to me. You know, I believe Maya Moore is Caitlin Clark's favorite basketball player, if I'm not mistaken, on the women's side, but when it comes to her herself, she's the closest thing since Jordan. If you want to talk about the injuries, you want to talk about the impact of the game, without Caitlin Clark, none of us will be watching the WNBA. It's just that simple. No disrespect to any other players that came before her, but as of right now, we cannot take away the greatness that she has brought to the game of women's basketball.
Maya Moore is reportedly Caitlin Clark's favorite women's basketball player, and Moore is a legend in her own right. But when it comes to cultural impact, when it comes to bringing in an audience that didn't care about the WNBA before, Clark is the closest thing to Michael Jordan this league has ever seen. That's not a knock on anyone who came before her, it's just the reality of what happened. Without Caitlin Clark, the average person still doesn't know when the WNBA season starts. Without her, the league's not on ESPN in prime time. Without her, there's no $2 billion media deal, and the commissioner won't say her name.
I don't get this. I don't get it at all. The paralysis, the inability to, well, I will not even editorialize. I will say the facts. The number of times that Kathy Engelbert has been asked by journalists, picking out John Wertheim with 60 Minutes as an example, asked about Caitlin Clark, and then her answer is, well, Caitlin an angel. And John Wertheim, to his great credit, wonderful friend and obviously great colleague, says, no, I didn't ask you about Angel. I only asked you about Caitlin. And then in her, the WNBA playoffs I covered in finals in 2024, went on and on about all the things that had.
So why won't she? Brennan said she respects Kathy Engelbert's background. Ran Deloitte, one of the largest consulting firms in the world. A woman succeeding in male-dominated corporate spaces. That resume is real. But running a basketball league is not the same as running a consulting firm. And the paralysis Brennan described is the proof. When journalists ask about the league's biggest star and the commissioner deflects to talk about someone else, when she gives an 18-minute speech about record success and never mentions the person who caused it, when she hands out a slap-on-the-wrist penalty after a nationally televised assault, that's not leadership. That's avoidance.
Hence why the season started. Well, I believe the season started on time, but we had late training camp and I believe a late draft. Adam Silver had to step in. Adam Silver give a press conference, pretty much state to the world that they're keeping Kathy. Whatever the case is, Kathy Engelbert, from my knowledge, was not supposed to be returning as the commissioner. And just like Christine Brennan just said, she's incapable of running a women's basketball league, let alone any league for that matter. Kathy Engelbert is a businesswoman, CEO of Fortune 500 companies. What the hell she got doing running a basketball league? Now, a lot of the success.
And here's something that didn't make it into most of the coverage. During the CBA negotiations last year, there were reports, unconfirmed, but from multiple connected sources, that part of the players' agreement to sign the new deal included a demand for a new commissioner. This came right after Nafisa Collier's exit interview, where she made some pointed comments about league leadership. The negotiations dragged on for months. Training camp started late, the draft was delayed, and then Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, had to step in personally and hold a press conference to basically announce that the deal was done and Engelbert was staying. That's not normal. When the NBA commissioner has to publicly prop up the WNBA commissioner, something's broken behind the scenes.
Some of the success before Caitlin Clark was simply on Kathy, but we cannot take away the success that Caitlin has brought to this game. And for Alyssa Thomas to only be suspended for one game and $1,000 fine is simply rhetorical. And me personally, she should have been suspended, just like Christine Brennan said, for 10 plus games. Hands down. You cannot go out here and assault people on national television and expect to come back and act like nothing has happened.
So what actually happens now? Brennan said Engelbert should be replaced, but she also said she's known her for years and likes her personally. That's not a hot take from someone with an agenda. That's a measured conclusion from someone who's watched this play out up close and sees no other option. The question is whether the NBA, which still oversees the WNBA's operations, is willing to make that move. Because right now, the league is in the middle of the most important growth period in its history, and the person at the top is either unable or unwilling to protect the player responsible for it.
Because that is simply what they're doing, acting like nothing has happened. But guys, I want to know y'all thoughts down in the comments section. And until next time, man, shake the damn haters off. I'm out of here, bro. Peace out.
And that player, by the way, hasn't said a word publicly about any of this. Caitlin Clark has taken every cheap shot, every snub, every piece of disrespect and kept playing. She didn't complain after the throat punch. She didn't call out the league for leaving her off the anniversary poster. She didn't demand protection when players were targeting her game after game. She just kept showing up and putting up numbers. That's probably why the audience stayed with her, because she's not playing the victim, even when she has every right to.
But just like I stated, it came with some loopholes, and the loopholes are being exposed each and every day by me, many other content creators. But the biggest person that has been on the front line with exposing everything that has been taking place in the WNBA is none other than USA Today reporter Christine Brennan. Christine Brennan has been on record time and time again exposing everything, and that's exactly what she did in a recent interview that took place yesterday. I want to play y'all this, and then after we listen to this and watch this, I'm going to take y'all to Christine Brennan's X account. Now, let's roll this and let's watch it and listen.
But the audience sees what's happening. They see a league that's benefiting from her popularity while simultaneously pretending she's not the reason for it. They see a commissioner who won't say her name. They see players making 7 figures because of the new TV deal taking cheap shots at the person who made that deal possible. And they see a $1,000 fine as the punishment. That's why this interview with Christine Brennan matters. Because she's saying out loud what the data already shows. The WNBA's leadership is failing the one person they can't afford to lose. So here's the real question. If Cathy Engelbert won't protect Caitlin Clark and won't even acknowledge her, who's actually running this league? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you made it this far, hit the like button and subscribe, because this story's not over, and we're going to keep following it until something changes.